David Tulis.
This is David Tulis with Nooganomics Radio. We are looking in at the protests. There are across the area, across courtyards, and in some gyms and auditoriums in the region, there are people gathering to protest what they see as inaction by Congress against the right to bear arms, against the ownership of firearms and the use of them. Now, I've got Sam Jordan, our correspondent, on the phone, and he has got us a live report from hundreds of people gathered in front of Red Bank High School.
Make a change.
Here we are. This is David Tulis. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
That's all. That's all. This is how it starts. This is all how it starts. And if we have to, if y'all are really positive and sure that y'all want to do this, we can make it a thing. If we have to come out here and get them to listen to us, we will. Would you like to introduce?
We are at Red Bank High School right now, live. This is David Tulis, and we're tuning in where we have our correspondent there on the scene, Sam Jordan, our sports expert here at Nooganomics Radio, and we are expecting to hear more. There sounds like there's been a presentation.
Okay.
Not sure what we're hearing, but
walked into that school not knowing they weren't going to see their family. The teachers they were not going to see their kids. It just shouldn't be like this. This is the one place you're supposed to be safe and to start your life. But one guy with one gun kills these people. And it just shouldn't be like this.
This is David Tulis. We're tuning in to, we're hearing a presentation amid tears at Red Bank High School. Sam Jordan, are you there?
There's like court and the Capitol building, like everyone's thinking like, what's going to change things? Like, how do we make a change? Well, is it these gun laws, like stricter gun laws, or like where does it start? And I believe it starts with love. Like, look around. Like, how many people came out here today? Like, look at the person on your right. Look at the person on your left. Like, do you love them? Like, do you care enough about them that if they were to die, you would come out here and stand up for them today? Like, what if that happened here? Like, would we want to make a change? It starts with love. It may not be that we need to have stricter gun laws, but we need to love the people around us and care about them. And that's the only way anything's going to change is if there's love, and we have love for one another. And that's where it starts.
We're at Red Bank High School here, live.
Everyone around you, your family, and taking advantage of the time you have because it's short. And so we're going to have a moment of silence for these victims. And so if y'all want to pray or whatever, we're going to close in prayer in a minute. But we're going to have a moment of silence for them. And just think about that. Think about the people you love and what you would do for those people. And just how much they mean to you. And, yeah.
All right, now there's a moment of silence as heads are bowed and eyes are closed at Red Bank High School out in the courtyard. And we have Sam Jordan there who's got the mic ringing, and no one is saying anything.
Red Bank High School.
Here he is.
Here just right off Morrison Springs Road. Several hundreds of students are here around the flagpole observing this moment of silence. Very guarded presence by Red Bank Police, Hamilton County Sheriff's deputies that are here, making sure that this is a peaceful ceremony, and it very well is. They had read off the names of the individuals that were killed in Florida, and they lit candles for each one of those individuals, whether they were teachers or students. And observing that brief moment of silence, and prayer is being given by one of the students here at the flagpole, and we're going to be talking with a couple of representatives of the student-led movement here in regards to this. So with that, the prayer continues.
On our country, Lord, because right now our country is hurt. There's so many things that are going wrong, but us as a student, us as young men and women have the power to change it, Lord. And I ask you to be with us as we make those changes happen.
This is Red Bank High School.
Are needed, and right now our nation is suffering because we are letting the same people discover our faith, Lord. And I want you to be with us, Lord, because we need you now more than ever, Lord. And I mean, it's crazy what's going on, and this is just the beginning. I mean, after this, so many threats have happened, but luckily we are starting to make a stand. Because people are starting to take things serious. But with your help and guidance, Lord, we can turn this hatred, this all that, the hatred, into love and compassion for one thing, Lord. And it starts with you, Lord. So if you would help us make some positive interactions with these students that feel alone, Lord, that feel like nothing in their life is going right, that the only way out is by killing themselves or killing others to make a name for themselves. If you would just give each and every one of us the compassion and love to seek out one another and to help us through a difficult time, things like this will not happen, Lord. So I ask you to be with us and every school across the nation that's doing this, Lord, and just bring love into our hearts. Just by a little, not by a lot. You know, just spark that fire within us all to make a difference, Lord. In your name, amen.
We're live at Red Bank High School. There is a protest of hundreds of people there in the courtyard.
Right. So
Want you to get excited.
Observing.
My advice would be take a big deep breath.
Hang on.
And just know
my
you
left
better
hand
vote.
does not know what my right hand is doing.
Be energized.
And I need to get Mike Gallagher off the air.
Any word on turnout, Lance? Be kind of interesting to find out what the actual turnout was. I love hearing people say, my vote doesn't really matter. It's like 100 and some thousand on either.
For our radio listeners and everything, tell us what is the main purpose here behind you and your fellow classmates and having this moment.
I don't think it's about the laws. I don't think it's about guns or anything. It needs to be about the families, the teachers, the kids that suffered from this. And we're here to remember that.
What do you feel like students can do to make a difference with this besides having this walkout?
Speak up. Go where you can go and speak where people will listen and understand you.
Are there other events that are planned other than this walkout?
Not right now. I know that we're going to keep the candles that we make with each name, all the 17 victims, out here as long as they can.
Was there much resistance from the school administrative staff or from the district in not wanting this to happen?
Absolutely not. My principal came to me as student body president and said, hey, if you want to do this, we'll support you. Just let me know your plans and we'll make it safe for you. So they organized police being here and everything being here and ready for us to be here. So.
Do you feel like that, with all your other fellow students throughout Hamilton County and around the region that maybe get together and try to make something happen to where the school board could possibly enact something, putting into the curriculum or rules?
I know that Hamilton County has gotten together and they've making it to where schools now have buzzers to come into the school. So they're taking safety measures to protect us even more. And for students to come together, maybe we'd have to talk or have a meeting with each student body president and think about something that we could do that's peacefully to do something.
Do you feel like the need for more SROs or school resource officers are needed at the various schools here in Hamilton County?
Just for protective measures, maybe have more than one. Maybe one that can always watch cameras and one that can have like patrol and doors. I would totally agree with that.
Any other ideas or suggestions that you could think of or your fellow classmates that, could possibly make a difference?
We talked to our principals, and I don't know if this has got approved yet, we're getting ID scanners for when you go to the office that scan your ID and that basically pops up anything about you. But as a student, really just, if you know something, you have to tell it. And if somebody don't believe you, just keep going to the next person until somebody trusts you.
Do you feel like that is a big issue for students to try to convey that message, you know, whether they're getting bullied or some student may have said, you know, I'm going to, you know, shoot up the school or whatever?
If a student says that, I know at Red Bank, at least at Red Bank, our principals take that so seriously for us. If they hear something, they go straight to that person, no matter what time it is or anything. So, yeah.
All right. I appreciate your time, Casey, and it was a very well done moment here, you know, with the students. And, you know, you just want to be safe and be able to learn so you can grow into a much better adult.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right. So, David, that's going to wrap things up here. They had several hundred students that were out here at the flagpole at Red Bank High School. There were other locations throughout the Tennessee Valley that were having moments like this. Catoosa County Schools down in Georgia was one other area that was also having this, and at various other locations. Normal Park Elementary School was having an observance like this as well. So it's not just limited here to Red Bank High School. Ooltewah also had things going on over at their gym in a more controlled atmosphere. So, you know, the students trying to make their voices heard in their own way. Unfortunately, the schools, you know, being very receptive and giving them that opportunity to express their voice. Reporting live from Red Bank High School for Nooga Radio 92.7 FM, I'm Sam Jordan. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Sam. This is David Tulis. We are here live at 92.7 FM. We've just heard from the courtyard where the flagpole is, and the grass spreads far and wide, and students are casting their morning shadows across it in large groupings around the federal flagpole there. And earlier you were hearing the clanking sound, and that was either the wind rustling the banner on high, probably that's what you heard, or it could have been maybe someone was just pulling on that steel cable that holds that flag up and makes it go up and down according to the rules of etiquette for the federal banner. This is David Tulis, and all across the region today here in Chattanooga area, there are students. The more mature ones, the adults they're still trapped in the school system, they are making a sign of solidarity, and the message is varied, and in some respects, one part might be seen as and understood as contradicting some other part. For example, in Red Bank, there's a prayer made at the beginning of the event that we heard with Sam Jordan, and the argument was not really political; it was a spiritual argument against the ravages of postmodern thinking. And postmodern thinking, as Gene Edward Veith and others have described Veith in his very fine volume, he's a Lutheran writer, points out that postmodernism denies even the possibility of there being truth, that every man, every woman has his own truth. And therefore, if that is the world in which you live, as Dostoevsky said, there is no wrong, right? If there is no set standard of truth apart from any one man, or apart from any one system of men in either states or nations or tribes, if there's no external public law, then you can certainly account for and explain and even defend. You can defend the processes. The existential processes that go on in the mind of a mass killer, hopped up perhaps on the fruits of the narcotics industry, the drug industry in this country, which is a highly profitable business that brings billions of dollars to shareholders and investors and owners of these. Some of them are private companies. In creating addictions and necessities among the population. So people who are the clients or customers of these companies are subject to medicated mind-altering circumstances and thought patterns, and end up killing people, not having God, not having God's grace, thinking nothing, of course, of the claims of the Lord Jesus Christ on the soul of the individual, and also upon the culture as a whole. These men, mostly men, young men, arm themselves with semi-automatic, large capacity magazine weapons and proceed to kill, as one did very recently in Florida at the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland. So we have a protest against in Red Bank, really a spiritual paradigm that has gripped the country in its some would say in its post-Christian time. With Christianity in many ways across the country, the landscape of Christianity is very poor. The church, the American church, even the best part of it, which would be the Reformed wing, even there is a remarkable laxity. I would say remarkable doubt, remarkable weakness of faith. And the weakness of faith comes because many Christians, you might say in the standard evangelical part of Christianity, that would be on the right, perhaps, if you want to put it in that framework, disbelieves that God has any claim on the public, right? Disbelieves that God has any claim upon the university, the government, the monetary system, the use of force, whether or not we have police departments, whether or not we have corporations, whether or not we have a monetary system based on gold and silver or pure fiat credit money. God has really nothing to say about those things. Whether we have public schools, Christianity, even the conservative ones such as the Southern Baptist Convention, even the Presbyterian Church in America, very weak on points that show God's claim upon culture. The claim being made, of course, through the scriptures, right, and all faithful preaching. In those two platforms, God Himself makes a claim upon society, and what He requires is, as these students suggested in their prayer at Red Bank, what He requires is that men worship Him and fear Him in their collective as well as in their individual, and that is the problem in Christianity. It has been privatized, subjectivized, and the word for Christianity in the Chattanooga area is called pietism, and that is to say, private piety is elevated into a system, and there is no larger view. God has no larger view upon mankind than the individual, and maybe that individual's private relations. But He doesn't have anything to say about whether or not we have a distinction in court, for example, between criminal and civil. Or has anything to say about whether Tennessee has a prison system, right? Prison system, my analysis and my reading of the scripture, just plain common man reading of the scripture, is that prison system is anti-God. It is anti-Christian. It is anti-victim. And so Christianity is paralyzed by its own gnarly understanding of the word, and makes no claim about culture at large. And so there are these massacres where the influence of Christ has been seen receding, the work of grace upon the human heart and human culture receding. And so we have massacres, people living in fear of massacres. Sheriff Jim Hammond in Hamilton County, he's just baffled as what to do. He has SROs, which are school resource officers, in maybe 20, 25 schools, but there are many more, maybe a dozen more, maybe 15, 20 more, that have no protection from the wild-eyed man on an existential Albert Camus type bend, in which he will have to kill someone for no reason, right? You kill someone out of tedium and out of indifference. The killer thinking that taking up his arm and shooting down innocent children, women, and teachers is as tedious an act as ordering, before he goes on his rampage, ordering a sandwich with egg and pork, or a sandwich with egg, bacon, and ketchup. Right? Either one is the same to him. It doesn't really matter. It's all the same. And so he, in a great cry of desperation, slaughters, whether in church or in school, innocent people. And the larger questions, of course, are, will Congress do something? Of course, that is always the question. And the progressive left, the statist left, is on the march for that to happen. Again, trying to take advantage politically of killing in a locale. And we have a prospect of such an event here in Chattanooga and in Hamilton County. And the question is, as I've been thinking about this, David Tulis here at 92.7, live covering local economy and the free market in Chattanooga. The thing I've been thinking about is this. Sheriff Hammond, I would say, has authority as the leading man in the county. He has authority to shut down these schools. And when I propose that to you, I know your heart suddenly thinks in terms of the progressive fear. The progressives, your statists, would say, well, there is no market for education. There is no way to provide for education if we don't have public schools. Well, that presupposition has been debunked, ages ago, 60, 70, 80 years ago. That has been on the ground prostrate, and it really is hard to defend. There is a vibrant market in educational services online. Think of all that you can do online. Schooling, especially state-centered, state-run schooling, presupposes that knowledge, information, libraries, books, teaching, learning, lectures are all rare and expensive. And yet we know that just the opposite is true, that they are, in fact, prolific. And with the arrival of the internet, a great big step in mankind's existence, like that Gutenberg brought with the press in Germany prior to the Reformation, all working to bring new knowledge to light and making wisdom more available and making the gospel more available, more accessible, and all the great books about the gospel, the theological works that you should be reading, you, my listener, should be reading, all available online for free. Ask me sometime what some of my favorites are. I do have recommendations for you, my listener, about what you should be reading in the direction of making Christianity more vigorous, more realistic, and more claiming upon right and wrong in the larger public realm, as opposed to just the private individual. There are people who obsess all their lives about their private personal relationship with God, and they never lift a finger to post bond for somebody who's wrongly put into the jail, or to help some poor soul who's a beggar. Right? There are people who their whole Christian life is about, it's omphalocentric. It looks at their own navels. Right? The omphalos is your navel. They are omphalocentric, looking at their navels and not thinking about those in need, those who have greater problems. So Red Bank Live, we've been hearing from Sam Jordan there, and a prayer. The wording in Red Bank is in the direction of making things right with God, that the people in Chattanooga need to make right with God, and thereby help that one who might be encouraged and inspired by the latest gunman. This one in Florida, facing a criminal trial and rightly so, capital punishment for his exciting venture against all order, against God himself, because that is what a man who leads a massacre is doing. He is making war on God himself, sitting on God's knee, as it were, slapping him in the face, and facing temporal judgment, and unless he repents, no doubt, eternal judgment as well. And I think that the prayer in Red Bank looked in that direction. It was a spiritual matter that was in that presentation, much less politic perhaps than in other places across the country. This is David Tulis. I argue that you should love your neighbor and buy local. David Tulis, Nooga Radio, the kick-ass radio station.
Chattanooga Morning News.